Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen. We're back, and my New Year's resolution is to make some videos. So this is in the video that we're going to make. It's going to be great. Now, Diabotical. They released a brand new video only on the, I think it was the 29th of December, Tim?
Yep, that's the one.
And it was quite a while since the previous update we've had, so we were bristling with anticipation. I was very excited, and we got a corker. So let's get straight into the actual content. The first thing that we saw was a brand new experimental map by City of Quake fame. So we didn't really get a, I'm gonna say, a deep understanding for the map because A, it was half complete, and B, it wasn't really played in a dual setting. But what I saw was very interesting. A lot of verticality, a lot of different rooms, a lot of things going on. What do you think?
I think it was just for testing, right? I don't think it was supposed to be anything. But it looks really fancy. It had a bunch of like really sexy props around the map. Like there was this big, it was like a mechanical penis using a fleshlight or something, and it was like slamming down like a factory. And there was
a big mechanical penis slamming down.
There was all sorts of stuff in there. And it looked as soon as like the game opened, like the rocket launcher model was like really high poly, and the map looked really fancy and stuff. So it looks like a really complete game, even though the first thing he told us about was that he had a shitload of stuff on his to-do list that he was supposed to get done by Christmas and hadn't done.
Yeah, so kind of, I think what I said to you at the time was the game progress has been not kind of as much as I would have liked, maybe a lot of people would have liked, but what they have done and what they do is very, very professional and very un-indie-like in a way. And I think that shows that they've talked about they've got developers from big studios, and they really focus on making everything look really polished. Not quite to the same level that Blizzard does, but in that Blizzard-esque way that it looks like it's had like 6 passes on a rocket launcher, whereas in other games, which I'm not going to mention, their models aren't as inspiring. And
yeah, and I remember the first like rocket launcher pass, right? It's way worse than what they've got now.
Yeah,
the fact that they have the time and the people to like iterate on this stuff is really showing.
Yeah, so they're doing a really good job of the just the general polish, and you feel that in the map, you feel that on the models, and hopefully we're going to feel that on the gameplay too. Now, the first thing that we would like to talk about is the new models. So the Railgun looks absolutely stellar. I think it was called the Pincer or something. I'm not really too au fait with that kind of nonsense. Like names, but it looks really cool. It's kind of this pincery gun thing, and it has a really nice little animation. The actual firing animation of the bolt looks like it's still the old one that's not finished yet, but the model itself of the gun looked great.
Yeah, it was really nice. It's like blue and gold. It's like my new favorite model now.
Yeah, although the plasma gun as well did look pretty snazzy. Like all of them had like a character to them. The only one withstanding was the new machine gun, which I think James said was very much work in progress. It looked like it was just 2 existing models slapped together, but
it's pretty generic.
Yeah, I think that's going to have some work on it. But something that's really important is like the models. You can see what the enemy has immediately. Like you'd have to think, oh, is that a rocket launcher or is that a shotgun? And I think they've succeeded with that. It all looks very nice and very easy to identify as well, which is important. Shall we move on to some of the props? I know you talked about one, but another one which is a little bit more interactive was the announcer box, which I think is pretty cool. I think you might have a slightly different opinion, but it's definitely...
I need to see it in execution, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, James is full of these ideas, right? He's always coming up with like... Well, he's got the entrances for all the 2 dual players and stuff. Like, I think he loves coming up with shit like that.
Yeah.
So that's really nice because that's, like we said again, it's polish, and that's the sort of stuff that people are going to latch onto, or it'll be like subconscious. You'll be playing it, and it'll just be all these little extra, little nice things around that you'll just make you like the game a little bit more. And yeah, I don't know how it's going to look to see like a mini DDK and a mini Zoot or whatever it is in the little caster box, but I bet they'll do something funny with it with like cosmetics and stuff.
It's very camp, and I think that's what the general aesthetic at least is partly going for, is this kind of not taking itself too seriously, which is something I'm really on board with, because esports these days is very much like, oh, we're super serious, you know, we're wearing ties and suits, and we're very much like, this is a real thing, we're real people, we're not just gamers. I'm messing about playing games. Whereas like they've gone for this direction where it's very, I think camp is the best way to describe it. It's taken them like a mockery of itself in a way, and a mockery of the genre through being a little bit over the top and a little bit ditzy.
They kind of don't have a choice anymore, because you play as an egg.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You can't make that serious anymore.
Yeah. But that's really interesting. It'd be cool to see what they do with it. And also another way is it kind of allows the casters to get a bit of exposure themselves, which is, you know, as someone who's done casting, it's quite nice to be represented as part of the entertainment package, which is basically what a tournament is, right? You're presenting the players along with like the production value and also the casters, or the talent, I don't know what they call them in these games these days, but kind of that whole package is something that you want to present, not just the gameplay. Like, it's a whole, people enjoy it for a variety of reasons. So I think that's a good step forward. Shall we move on to the map editor?
Yeah, so he's been showing us for ages, the map editor, but every new time he shows it, there's like a new feature in it, and it looks pretty cool now. Like, he showed the texturing system where he had a little iPad with like a list of textures on it, and he could like select an area, and then he could just click a hotkey that you could see on the little tablet, and it would change the texture.
Yep. Yeah.
And you basically have all your stuff stored on this little tablet. So you've got like, you can have themes on there, and you've got a list of all your props and a list of all your textures. And he's mentioned that you can import custom ones and stuff, which is like, it's like one step further than the reflex editor, right? You can literally put anything in, and you can submit them to the workshop and stuff. And like the community can just take that so far, so much further than you can with the reflex one, where you have to kind of wait for the devs to make new props and then use them.
Yeah. The only kind of, I'm not a massive fan of the iPad or whatever it's called, tablet thing. Like the model, I think I was talking to you about this before, where I much prefer it if I like the concept. Again, it has that kind of camp, kind of breaking the fourth, one of the walls. It's breaking a wall somewhere at some point, and I'd like if it just brought it up to the face. So you get the animation, you get the model like bringing it up, but also it brings it up further, so it takes up the whole screen, or maybe more of the screen, because it feels like it's half obstructing your view and not big enough to really make proper use out of. It might just be because we're watching it on like not full resolution, right?
Yeah, well, I was with you. I thought the same thing, but now I do think it has value, being able to look at what you're changing and not have to dip in and out of looking at the game, and just be able to do them both in tandem. I think it's probably going to be quite useful. Yeah.
But it's a cool concept. Like it's something that isn't necessary, if you know what I mean. It's like you don't need to have the Eggbot model bring up a tablet to show you a menu, which is basically what you're doing. But it's nice that it's there, and it's creating.
Going the extra mile.
It's a polish we were talking about at the beginning. Along with that, they had dynamic props, which were featured, which are basically kind of models you can place in game, which you can stretch and like, move in different ways that you can't usually do with models without actually changing the proportions on the model. So if you usually take a model in a game and you stretch it, it won't scale dynamically. If I'm trying to explain something that you might not have an idea of.
It'll be a video.
Yeah, it'll be in the video. But the cool thing is with it, it makes everything look like, if you make a prop, it's going to look how you designed it and how you wanted it to look, no matter what direction and how it was implemented into a map, which is nice.
Yeah, and it means that regular folk who don't want to spend ages learning a really complex map editor can like put shit together and make a map look relatively nice and relatively, I'm using the word again, polished, but it would just make it means that you can do it quite quickly, which is good.
Yeah, really quick iteration on map design is really important, and it's something that the Reflex engine and the map editors brought, is that you can push out versions of maps very quickly and iterate on them very quickly, and that's like this whole new design principle within like the IT space, right? Rapid agile development, and I think it's quite cool to be able to do it in map design as well. So that's interesting, and hopefully it'll be easier to make maps and quicker to make maps for map editors, and hopefully you should get more high quality maps from the player base. Now, the gameplay. This is something we got not a huge amount of information on, but we did get some in terms of the movement. And something we were both concerned about in the past, and I think we spoke about in our videos, is the movement seemed very catch-all, like just lots of different movement paradigms shoved into the game, and it wasn't really defined that well. And apparently through some gameplay testing they did internally, a lot of that has been dialed back a lot. It seems like the air control has been toned down, and the some of the things like the bolts and the like the dashes, the double jumps have been either removed or tied to an NG system, which we'll talk about in a moment, or at least toned down a lot. Do you want to?
Yeah, I couldn't be happy about this, to be honest, because like you said, there was just way too many options before. And then what was it like? There was crouch sliding, and there was bolt, and there was double jump or a super jump, as well as air control, like proper air control.
Yeah.
And strafe jumping. Like there's just tons of shit, and there's too many options. But now it feels like quite. Well, I say feels. I haven't played it, but it looks like it'll be quite a. It's just like Quake Live, right? But a little bit more ability to be aggressive with the like extra air control, but not as much as CPM. And I've seen a lot of CPM players say things like. Just a little bit critical that it's not full on air control, but like, come on, we've had a shitload of CPM remakes, a shitload of like air control games. Like, how many Quake Live type games have we had since Quake Live?
Yeah, so, and even just from the perspective of opening to make gameplay like, tweaks and changes, and because obviously you make a movement system, oh cool, I made a really cool movement system, I think this is awesome. And sometimes developers are hesitant to make changes to it after their initial baby, or whatever they want to call it, has been designed. They think, oh, I made this perfect movement system. But the fact he's open to changing it is really, really good news, because maybe it's not perfect right now. Maybe it needs a bit more air control. Maybe it needs a little bit less. Or maybe crouch sliding could be added and remove the air control or whatever. But the openness to iterating, I'm using that word again, on like the gameplay or the movement specifically in this case is really nice to see, because it is a worry where it's like a system is created and then it's not very good and then you're stuck with it, right?
Yeah, and he's also mentioned that there's like tools to edit the movement. I don't know if he said something about movement scripting. I'm pretty sure that was in this update video, but that, if he's going to let people fill around and make their own movement systems and stuff, then there's got to be something in place to sort of nurture that and let the cream rise to the top.
Yeah.
And have that affect the main game.
Yeah, definitely. And just to pick up on the energy system, I'm not sure many people noticed this, and I don't think he spoke about it directly himself, but we've known for a while that there's going to be some sort of energy system tied to the movement, and you could actually see on the new UI, which it looked alright. There was a few new UI elements on the bottom left of the screen, but there was a little energy system, and as he was hopping around the map, he was picking up these little crystal things, and it was filling up. And then when he got to 100, he was presented with two options, and it seemed like you had the choice between bolt and haste in that case. Kind of similar, I guess, to UT 2004 with the adrenaline system, which required like I think it was WW for haste or whatever it was, like input of presses, and then you move. Like you could basically have a mini haste for 10-15 seconds. So something like that is pretty interesting. It's not completely new, like I say, but it's something that's probably going to need to be iterated on, but a cool concept nonetheless. Yeah,
and I'm glad there's just more resources to sort of manage. I know it sounds weird, but that's kind of an interesting thing to me. And it's another layer on top of the game, right?
Yeah.
We've had Duel of the same type for a long time, so this is just another little iteration.
Yeah. And something that I'd really like to see is, like, I've said about this many times before, but Elder is a map which is interesting because of the key, but I feel like it wasn't particularly well implemented. I think like the concept of having an extra thing on the map to control in order to have an advantage is really cool, but I don't think Elder did it perfectly. But with movement, you could have, let's say, a space on the map that you can only cross with a bolt, for the sake of the argument. So in order to get from one place to another on the dual map, you'd have to get the energy in order to make the jump, and then you've got to control the energy and stop the enemy from getting the energy. And I think that's a really cool concept of, like you said, this extra resource layer on top of the traditional ones, and it could really make some interesting moments. But I think that's pretty much like, I mean, there were other things if you watch the entire, I think it was 40 minutes, that you could pick up on, but they're the main things that we, as people who are enjoyers of this fantastic genre, picked up on and wanted to talk about with you. Is there any final things that you would like to?
I mean, it's kind of interesting how the game is pretty much like the opposite of Quake Champions in a way. Like,
Yeah, it's
Quake Champions is Quake Champions is like this whole new thing with all the champions and shit, and it's like this gothic thing, and it's kind of, it doesn't, right now at least, it doesn't seem to be offering much in terms of like community features, and seems to be more like, we will make maps and give them to you. And whereas Diabotical is like all colorful, and it's got quite a classic dual mode, like it's, you know, its main mode is dual, and it's quite classic in that sense.
Main competitive mode, just
main competitive mode, yeah. And it's like its focus is like giving shit to the community, giving them map editors, giving them replay editors, giving them the ability to add custom assets and stuff like that. So it, like complete opposites, and both methods have their pros and cons, and I'm just glad that kind of both exist. But Diabotical right now is looking really interesting, and even though he met none of his Christmas targets, that this latest video was quite uplifting.
Yeah, it was really good to see. And recently we had an update in the Diabotical Discord, which you're not part of, but you should probably get in. It's there's some decent updates there on the update channel. That the t-shirts, for those of you that backed the Kickstarter, will be receiving them soon. So if you've not heard it from them, you've heard it from us. Look forward to your Diabotical t-shirts. I know I will. I think that's pretty much it. Looking forward to 2017, and it's been a while since we released a video, but here we are, and we're going to be back on track. And we've said this for the past 3 years, but this is going to be the year where FPS games.
This is the one.
This is it. I mean, Reflex should be probably finished this year. UT should be finished this year. Hopefully we'll have a good idea what Quake Champions is going to be like, and Diabotical as well, and of course all the other indie projects, which there are more than I can possibly name in a single video. There's a lot of them, but yeah, really exciting.
If this year isn't the year, then we're doomed. So
yeah,
come on, boys.
Yeah, if you could like chop and make
someone do it.
Make Arena FPS great again. Buildable wall. Yeah, all those wonderful memes. So I've been Galangua, or Marzo, as I am now known to many people on the internet, and this is Zijik, otherwise known as Neeple. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.